Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 176. Hi, I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
We decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Jill and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie, fit and strong as we age.
Yes, we do. You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter.
You know what many of the Becoming Ellie members are often curious about? Intermittent fasting.
Yes, it's a very popular topic. Today, we do a deep dive on intermittent fasting with health coach Laurie Lewis. Let's go to the podcast.
Laurie Lewis is an intermittent fasting and wellness coach, and her business is called Fast Forward Intermittent Fasting. She offers customized coaching services.
With intermittent fasting as the foundation, Laurie teaches how to break free from the punishment diet paradigm we live in. She shows how to tune into our body's inner compass, have a daily eating window, and experience improvements in every aspect of our lives.
Laurie has a health coach certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Welcome, Laurie. It's a pleasure to have you as our guest.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, Jill. Good to be with you all. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you. Many of us, women, probably men too, but we're talking about women, find that hormonal changes cause the difficult to lose weight gain.
Yes.
And I know I saw that you said you yourself had stubborn hormonal fat that hit you hard in 2012. And you tried lots of different ways to lose that, and with, I gather, varying degrees of success. So can you tell us what worked, what didn't work, how you struggled with that?
Yeah, I started studying nutrition in my late 20s as a personal curiosity and was fit and lean, and I figured out the foods that made my body feel amazing. So when I went into menopause early, at age 49, the average is about 52. I went into menopause early and suddenly I gained 50 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So that was a huge mystery to me and everyone in my life. It's like, wait, you're the healthiest person we know. How could this happen? I just run the New York Marathon a bunch of times. And so I did all the things that I knew to do. I buckled down with my eating, even though I was already, eating the very nutritious foods for me, and did some elimination, just did everything. I worked out more, like I did everything more, and nothing made a difference. And I really struggled and suffered for nearly 5 years. It wasn't just the weight gain. It was brain fog and memory loss. My equilibrium was off. Every part of my body started aching, head to toe. My elbows, my shoulders, my knees, my hips, like everything hurt. So one night I lived in New York City for about 25 years. I live in Portland, Oregon now, but I was home in Colorado where I grew up visiting my mom. And she said, let's use this time that you're home to turn the weight around. And my daughter ears didn't hear that.
That's always a hard thing, isn't it?
It didn't feel like a contribution. And I was wailing and stomping my feet like a 5-year-old having a temper tantrum, but I was 54. And it was just like, I've tried everything. I can't just snap my fingers and make this all go away. And
yeah, like, what do you know, Mom?
right, exactly. And what was very apparent was that she cared a lot about how miserable I was, Kind of miraculously that night, I read about intermittent fasting for the first time. And I thought, wait a second, I've been studying nutrition all these years and I've never heard of this. I had heard of therapeutic long-term like prolonged therapeutic fasting. I didn't know a person could carve up the 24 hours in a day and divide it in two parts, the fasting hours and the eating window, and live your life like that and turn your health around and have your body shed body fat, which I very desperately wanted to do, and balance our hormones and lower inflammation. So I stayed up that night and read everything I could about it and shared about it with my mom the next morning. And she said it made perfect sense to her and asked how she could support me. And that was nearly 8 years ago. I've had an eating window every day. And the reason this became the work that I love to do every day is supporting people through and restoring their health is because a bunch of friends cornered me at a wedding after I'd lost the 50 pounds and said, "What on earth did you do?" Because not only was I lighter, but I was back feeling like myself again. I didn't have any more aches and pains. The plantar fasciitis went away, like everything that was ailing me corrected. And people wanted to know more about that. So it's a great joy.
So let me ask you something. So that was not, I thought you were going to say that your mother had heard about intermittent fasting, but no, she was just like, I'm here to help you figure this out.
That's right.
And independent of her. That's funny.
That's right. I had this tantrum, a complete meltdown. And that night I read about it for the first time. And that was early June 2017. And so I'm nearing my 8th year of keeping an eating window. And early on, I don't relate to myself as a real stick-to-it person. I think we get all gung-ho and excited to try something new, and it usually doesn't last too long. And so I decided early on, one of the things that appealed to me was the flexibility of you can move the eating window around. It can be shorter or longer. When new people start something, it is helpful to have it be consistent every day. But I also liked the flexibility. So I said to myself, you know what? Even if I change it up, I'm going to have an eating window every day. I am never going to miss a day. And that really propelled me into having this be a sustainable lifestyle because it feels good. It works with my life and it helped me reach and maintain my health goals. So,
well, I'm curious about why you think the other methods didn't work, or they used to work for you, but they didn't work then in 2017. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I think that what happened for me was the hormonal chaos of perimenopause and menopause sent my body into just absolute chaos. And my every fat cell in my body was just holding on to fat for dear life. And what we have been taught for the last, let's say, 75 years is that weight loss is a matter of calories in, calories out. What actually happens is dieting makes us miserable because we're eating tiny little unsatisfying meals all day long. We can't wait for the next one because the last one we had was just so unsatisfying. And that is then lowering our metabolism. So dieting, calories in, calories out, is all about energy and leaves us unsatisfied and slows down our metabolic rate. And mostly the way people relate to dieting, because it's mostly so miserable, is that once we hit the number, then we can go back to what we did before. And this creates a lifetime of yo-yo dieting, which really makes people miserable. And then you end up gaining more than you lost, and people end up more miserable and heavy and sicker and poor metabolic health. The difference here is it's a hormonal game. And when we take the steps to fast and have an eating window, we are actually doing what is physiological. It matches our physiology, our evolutionary selves. So 300,000 years of human beings have evolved and thrived in conditions of food scarcity. And so when we're in a fasted state, we're keeping inflammation low and insulin, which is a very important hormone. We have over 80 hormones, but keeping insulin low allows the body to tap into our stored energy called body fat. It's there for a reason. It's there because we won the genetic lottery. Our ancestors were really good at storing fat on their bodies for the famine that would eventually always come. And we, fortunately or fortunately, live in a time of food abundance. So we don't ever tap into that excess body fat. And we also have been taught erroneously that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, which is actually a marketing ad campaign by Kellogg's from over 100 years ago to try and train people to eat breakfast because there was, they wanted to sell their breakfast cereal. And the other thing that we've been taught is that we should be eating little tiny meals all the time. And we live in a snack culture where if we aren't popping something in our mouths every hour, we think something's wrong. And so to specifically answer your question, it's rather than a calories in, calories out exercise, it's a matter of hormones. And because I was then fasting clean, like real true fasting, and consolidating my eating into an eating window, the body is then in repair during those fasting hours, which again has integrity because it matches our physiology, much like sleep, to allow our bodies that repair time. And then during the eating window, it's nourishing time, it's building time. And so it's the best of everything, which, I said that dieting slows the metabolic rate. Fasting actually cranks up the metabolism because in the fasting hours, we're burning our own body fat, which the body's feeling like, wow, there's plenty of energy here. I can speed up the metabolic rate. And then when we're not dieting or calorie restricting in the eating window and we're eating well, an abundant amount of nutritious food, the body's like, oh, good, there's plenty of fuel here. And the metabolism goes up.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that really makes sense about it is also how well people feel when we keep this fasting and eating window regimen. And the only struggle I've experienced for myself and coaching so many people is because we live in a time when people are drinking flavored drinks and eating all the time. We need to train ourselves like, ancient humans consolidated their eating. And so we need to train ourselves to do that in an environment where people are in fact eating all the time. But because we feel so well, it's a lot easier to keep going. I think things are sustainable when people feel well, things that feel good, we're able to keep doing. So I think that one of the astonishing things about intermittent fasting is how well people feel so quickly.
You mentioned some of the health benefits from intermittent fasting, particularly interested to the brain fog and, some of the other effects of menopause that it's not always apparent that that's menopause. You're just wondering why you're feeling so lousy. But so the health benefits from intermittent fasting are more than just losing weight.
Exactly. 97% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy and don't know it. And with fatty liver and dysfunctional
90,
blood
did you
sugar.
say 97?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty high.
It is pretty high. And
that's basically everyone.
It is. And people don't know they have fatty liver and dysfunctional gut and blood sugar and insulin. So it's a very simple solution to, it's simple. It's not always easy, right? It takes some focus and some determination to figure out like, what's the eating window that works with my life and has me feel well and will turn my health around. But it is a simple solution to, I'd love to describe what I consider fasting to be and to not be, because you can find anything on the internet. People are like, oh, I can have this while I'm fasting and that while I'm fasting, but if we're actually fasting and keeping an eating window, one of the most immediate and important effects of fasting and having an eating window is lowering inflammation. Dr. Ben Bickman wrote a really important book called Why We Get Sick. And high circulating insulin and high inflammation are the underlying causes for all metabolic diseases. And those two things are immediately addressed by fasting and having an eating window. And the next thing that people experience pretty quickly is the lowering and normalizing of blood pressure and then blood sugar. And, when a person's A1C can come down and inflammation comes down and circulating insulin comes down, people feel better. And the aspect of brain fog really is also a matter of insulin. And when insulin comes down and the body's tapping into stored body fat for energy, where the body's then making what are called ketones, which makes for a brighter, sustained, clear mental state as well. So all the parts are connected. And I like to liken fasting with sleep, which is sleep is an important repair time. And we extend the fasting before sleep and we extend the fasting after sleep. We're extending those healing hours. So I relate to my fasting hours with my healing hours and my eating window as the enjoyment and pleasurable, nourishing and building hours. And so it feels like a win-win.
So we're talking about this, but it occurs to me that could you at least define what the intermittent fasting is and how one does it?
I would love to. I want everybody who's listening to not only, as we finish this conversation, to feel like they got enthusiastic about something that they'd heard about and they understand a little bit more of what it is, but I want everybody to be able to start. I don't want any mystery there of like,
right,
what is it and how do I start? So the way that I like to think about intermittent fasting is that we are deliberately and consciously putting our bodies into a repair state for a big chunk of every day. And like I said, you take the sleeping hours and you extend it at the beginning and you extend it at the end. And those are your fasting hours. And then we get to say when our eating window is. We get to say how long it is. We get to say when it is. Some people love eating in the morning. It's like, great, have a morning eating window. It's like there are no rules about when it is. And so you take the 24 hours of every day and divide it into the fasting hours and the eating window. Most people like to have their eating window at a time that works with their family, their commute, their, other people,
their life,
right? Their social life. Exactly. So the way that you start is you look at today and you decide, well, when am I going to finish my last meal today? So Jill, when you look at today, what time do you think you'll finish your dinner? And, Chris, you too.
Well, I'm going out to dinner tonight and I am being picked up at 5:30. So by the time I get there, it'll probably be about 7:00. By the time I'm finished.
Great.
Yeah,
so you'll finish.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now, some people are like 4:30, some people are 10:30, right? There's no right answer other than exactly what you just did, Jill. All right. I've got this friend. They're picking me up. We're going to the restaurant. Yep, I'll finish at 7. So today, and both of you are the same. So today, eating window closed at 7. After 7, you drink plain water. You may have to change up your evening routine because people's brains, you sit in your favorite chair and you watch your favorite shows and suddenly your brain goes, where's the ice cream? Where are the chips? Where's the wine? Where's that? Right. So many people do need to adjust their evening routine as they're training their brain and their body to have this eating window, right? So, but you drink plain water. You might even have to go to bed if you're so bored, right? To deal with the mental noise. You're like, well, I'm going to get a good night's sleep tonight. Okay. So then you sleep, you wake up tomorrow and you add 12 hours when you're starting. Okay. So you both said 7 p.m., 7 a.m. Now 7 a.m. will roll around. And depending on when you woke up, you'll have a plain water, maybe a plain black coffee or plain black tea if you like coffee or tea. And at 7 a.m., if you're hungry, open your eating window and eat normally. People are like, what's normally? I'm like, what do you normally eat, right? You may have your coffee the way you love it, your candy coffee, or some people are like, I'm not 7. That's not so hard. 12 hours. I'll keep going. Okay. So the minimum as you're starting is you start with this 12-12. Okay. So you try and make it 12 hours. If you're not hungry, go a little longer, go a little longer. And that is easy for some people and hard for others based on your daily schedule and what you are accustomed to eating now. The goal is really within a week or two to extend that either gradually or abruptly, it's up to you, to about a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour eating window. So if you could open your eating window at 10 a.m., have a late breakfast, have your coffee how you like it, have a lunch at 1, have dinner at 5:30 and close it at 6, okay? So that would be an 8-hour eating window. From there, here's what you want to figure. It takes about a month for the body to use up the stored sugar in your body and to then switch over, what we call flip the metabolic switch, and switch over to utilizing your own body fat for energy. That first month, you want to have all your attention on establishing this new habit, have it be gradual, stay off the scale. So your attention is on how you feel as opposed to, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Okay. So it's like your body's going through a huge adjustment here. Slow down, have it be gradual, have it feel good. Your body is healing in those fasting hours. That you can take it to the bank, that you can trust. Then in the second month, once you are fat adapted and burning your own body fat for energy, then you can start playing around with it. I'll use myself as an example. It's like I was eating these 2 meals in 8 hours and it seemed kind of long. I was like, I don't need 8 hours to eat 2 meals. And so I shortened it to 6 hours and that felt really good, And so from there, you just are figuring out what eating window feels really good, what timing works with my life, and ultimately what is going to have me reach my health and weight goals. But having our attention off the scale and on how well we feel is really important because people will give up in that first month because they're like, it's not working. It's like, oh, it's working. It's working. I promise. Inflammation's coming down. Your gut is healing. The fat is coming off your liver. Like there's a lot of repair happening and you can really count on that. And it's a lot easier if you're not getting on the scale every day in the beginning.
I know there's a lot of women in perimenopause or menopause that talk about fat around the middle. And so that was part of the healing that you're talking about, right? The repair?
It is that fat around the middle is hormonal and starting with insulin. So yeah, I experienced that for the first time in my life. I had always been trim and fit. And I mean, I'd struggled with my weight going up and down, maybe 20 pounds up and down, but I had never gained, 50 pounds in very short order. And I didn't ever have that much belly fat and back squish. It was just all new. It was in new places and it just was, it was very stubborn and in new places. And over the course of 15 months, I lost 51 pounds. So that is very slow and methodical. And one of the very exciting things about using intermittent fasting as a health tool and as a weight loss tool is that there's this phenomenon called autophagy that really cranks up when we're in a deeply fasted state. So if a person is fasting, well, autophagy is always happening, but if a person is fasting over 18 hours, let's say they have a 19 and 5 schedule, a 19-hour fast every day and a 5-hour eating window, those extra hours of fat burning and then the addition of the autophagy, which is a deep cellular cleanup, one of the benefits of this autophagy is it eats up old skin. And as people are shedding fat and losing weight, their skin is shrinking along with that naturally, which really does not happen during dieting. And I was astonished by that as I was shedding the fat and shedding the weight, my skin was healing too, which is amazing. Yeah, it's a surprise benefit. I know it sounds too good to be true.
I have heard people say they have lost like skin tags and that kind of thing
Yes.
from doing this.
Skin tags are a matter of high circulating insulin. And so when the insulin normalizes, the skin tags fall off for sure. People's scars diminish. And the way I respond to people feeling like this feels too good to be true. Are you sure that everything you're saying is accurate? I think it sounds too good to be true because it so matches our physiology. When we're working with our body, the body is so happy it's working correctly and we feel well. And so all these incredible surprise benefits of people's autoimmune diseases and being able to lower or maybe go off their blood pressure medication or their thyroid medication or psoriasis going away that people have been suffering from for so long, there are so many surprise results.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you say there's better windows for some people than others? I mean, are there certain ones that
Yeah, I do. That's such a great question. Okay. So, most normal people are not like elite athletes. Okay. So if someone out there is like, I am, it's like, good for you. Okay. So if someone out there is like, 18% body fat and they're 55 years old and they're like spend a lot of time working out and lifting weights and running and doing all the things, then they could have a longer eating window. They could fast, let's say 14 hours, have a 10-hour eating window, 3 distinct meals where they're filling up, nourishing their body well, letting insulin come back down in between the meals, waiting for hunger to arise again, eating again. They could have a 10-hour eating window. But most of us, you know, uh, uh, who are in perimenopause, I say aged 44 to forever are the women that I support. I'm on the forever side. So I'm turning 62 this week. Most of us really do have metabolic health issues to turn around. We want to get the fat off our organs. We want to get that belly fat resolved because that is a metabolic health issue, carrying weight in our bellies. And, everybody asks me, what's the best eating window? The answer to that is what's best for you. Okay. So the criteria for determining this is the eating window that has you feel amazing. And that takes about 2 to 3 months to figure out. I think good 3 months to figure out the eating window that is you feel really well. The second criteria is the eating window that works with your life. Okay. Your commute, your fitness, your family, your social life, y- your body. Some people want to eat right up until they go to bed. Other people are like, I can't do that. I have acid reflux. I can't lie down if I just ate. So other people feel great closing their eating window at 4. Okay. So it's got to feel amazing. It's got to work with the timing of your life, and it's got to help you reach and maintain your health goals. Now, all that said, some people do great with 14:10. Not many. Some people do great with 16:8. That's more of a maintenance schedule. I think that 19:5. So Dr. Bert Herring, he's a metabolism expert, wrote a book called The Fast 5 Diet. He and his wife are both doctors, and they figured out that having a 19-hour daily fast and a 5-hour eating window had them restore their health and feel really well. I actually think that's a great place as people are starting with 12-12, reach 16-8, experiment with a little shorter, experiment with a little longer. Then maybe in the second or third month, be like, I'm going to test out this 5-hour eating window. I'm going to try and see if I can squeeze in 2 meals into 5 hours. And then most people are like, no, that's way too much food, and experiment with a 19:5. And then maybe you'll be like, 18:6 feels better. There isn't one right best eating window for everyone, but I do think a 5-hour eating window is very healing for many people. Now, people out there who haven't even ever fasted a minute in their lives, that sounds hard. So you got to remember that I said, start gradually, get to 16:8, have an 8-hour eating window for a while, try a longer fast one day, do a 24-hour fast one day and eat a big meal in 2 hours, play around with it. but don't be in a hurry. This is not a hard push. This is not a struggle. It really, I love explaining intermittent fasting as this isn't a diet. It's a quiet. That what happens is once your body is burning your own body fat for energy, it gets really easy. Everything gets quiet. One of the things that creates the quiet is the food noise. The constant craving and the food noise actually disappears when the body's in a fat burning state. And the other thing that contributes to that is I do want to explain what my definition of actual fasting is. Okay. So if you did a religious fast, it would be water only, like for Yom Kippur, for a religious fast is water only. Ramadan fasting is dry fasting. Okay. I'm talking about drinking plain water. The other thing is for medical fast, if you went in for surgery or fasted blood work and they confirmed that you were fasting and you said, yeah, I just had coffee with cream in it, they'd be like, you're not fasting. You took in nutrition. Okay. So my definition of fasting, and you could call it clean fasting or you can just call it fasting, is not having anything sweet, food flavored, or with nutrients. Okay. So bone broth is nutrients, cream is nutrients, squeeze a lemon is nutrients and food flavors. So people are like, well, isn't it have to do with calories? Can't you just drink Diet Coke while you're fasting? It's like, no.
Don't even eat a cough drop, right?
That's right, because it spikes insulin. Your tongue is the beginning of digestion. And, even if you say lemon, right? You suddenly have a mouthful of saliva. It's like your body responds to these food flavors, sweetness, and nutrients. Okay, so fasting's fasting. Fasting is plain unflavored water, plain unflavored black coffee, plain unflavored bitter black or green tea. Could include minerals like a plain magnesium to keep your minerals up while you're fasting. Maybe a few grains of salt under your tongue to keep your sodium levels up, electrolytes up, and then your medications as prescribed. Now, people are like, wait, you said no flavors, no sweetness, no nutrients. Isn't coffee a flavor? I guess a normal question. It's like, it is, but there's plenty of science on this that the body doesn't recognize bitterness, extreme bitterness, as a food. Now, then people will say, I've heard all the questions, right? People will say, okay, good. My dandelion tea or my nettles tea is really bitter, so I can have that while I'm fasting. It's like, no, that's chock full of nutrients. Okay. So if you really want a pure fast, drink plain water. But if you need your coffee to wake up in the morning, have a little cup of black coffee, switch to plain water, have a little cup of black or green tea, switch to plain water. And one of the things that provides that very simple binary water, black coffee, black tea is that helps out with the food noise too. One of the things that we do in our society is we're constantly entertaining ourselves with food. I'll have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Every few minutes, we think of one more thing we could have a bite of, one more thing we could have a flavored drink. And what happens during the fasting is you say to yourself, I get to enjoy fill in the blank. I get to have that later in my eating window. It's not off the table. It's just not now. And so this beautiful dance of fat burning, lowering insulin, lowering inflammation, quieting the noise, going about your day, being productive and energetic, and having your yummy food at the time that you want to have it. It's the best of ever. It's kind of living the dream.
So you just said something that leads to what I want to know, which is when you get to your eating window, how do I know how much to eat? And perhaps what should I be eating?
I love it. New fasters will say, usually within the first week to 10 days, they're like, gosh, the fasting feels so good. What I'm struggling with is what I'm supposed to eat and how much. Okay. So people have a feeling like they probably need to improve their food choices, right? But there's a lot of confusion about that. So the way that I work with people is that I have discovered for myself and others that when you start learning this one new habit, which is to fast and have an eating window and eat normally, eat what you normally eat, the body then starts informing you of what it wants and what it doesn't want and how much it wants. So that same doctor, Bert Herring, who wrote that he also wrote a book called AC, The Power of Appetite Correction. And he shows in that book that we all have an appestat, an appetite center in our brain that manages, regulates our hunger and satiety hormones. And because we live in this abundant time where we drink flavored drinks and eat constantly from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep, that appestat doesn't work. But when we start fasting, usually in the second month, people are like, oh, it happened. I heard my body tell me, steering me towards some foods, steering me away, losing interest in other foods, and informing me of how much to eat. So the goal is this idea of satiety. Right now, in the beginning, when people start intermittent fasting, you will feel like you're eating too much. Okay, you will. You'll be like, eating window open, floodgates open, the food's like you're shoving it in. Now, I want you to hear my voice in your head going, put it on a plate, sit down, slow down, chew your food, use a fork, okay? So if you're standing at the kitchen counter or the fridge, I want you to hear me say, sit down and slow down. And what will happen usually after the first month into the second and the third month is this appetite correction will kick in and your own body will tell you, I've had enough. It'll say, stop now. And some days it will want more food. It'll be like, nope, more, keep eating until I feel that sense of satiety. And some days you'll just have a few bites and you're like, I'm full. And then you wait a bit more. You eat another meal in your eating window. And some days your body wants more food. Some days it wants less food. Some days it'll be screaming for Brussels sprouts. And you're like, I don't even like Brussels sprouts. And your body's like, well, we do now.
They say.
Then there will be things in your cupboard, in your snack pantry or your ice cream in the freezer that you're like, oh, my body isn't even interested in that anymore. Normally that wouldn't have lasted 24 hours in my house, but it's been there for a month and I forgot about it. So this idea of appetite correction, of the cravings, the strong cravings, getting quiet and your body informing you of what it wants to eat and how much it wants you to eat is a result, a benefit of intermittent fasting.
And what role does water play in all of this? I mean, you did say drinking water during the fast, but how much water should we be drinking?
That is, there are some standards, but it's mostly what I call medical mythology, right? People will make up, 8 glasses a day when I was growing up. Now they say, take your weight and divide it by 2, and that's in ounces instead of pounds. But it's all a guideline, right? So I think we all need to create for ourselves habits to remember to drink water. So before I go to bed, I fill a glass of water and I set it next to my bed. And when I wake up in the morning, I sit there and I drink the whole thing. So I got 1 glass in me before I even got out of bed. And then because having things visually around me as reminders are helpful for me, I keep the water bottle out and I keep, I've got my glass right here. There's this idea that if you're thirsty, you're too dehydrated and gone too long. I think the body's pretty smart. I think that when we're thirsty, we should drink water.
Yeah.
It's a communication to drink water. I think that as we're hungry, or hunger alerts, I call them, hunger waves come and go when you're fasting. Hunger doesn't build and build and build until you can't take it anymore. And as if you have a tummy growl or a little, sensation in your stomach, that can be a reminder to have a glass of water. So yeah, I think plain water is really, it's life-giving. It's important. And so whatever structures people can put around them to support them to remember to drink water, I think that's really helpful. And it's really helpful as you're fasting too.
When you're planning to break your fast, what's your thoughts on protein versus carbs? I mean, do you consider eggs and protein shake or something like that better for breaking the fast? Or, I know a lot of people like to have toast and coffee or oatmeal.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk to your clients about, the carbs versus protein? Or is it a fat kind of thing? Eat avocados. I don't know.
Those are great. You hit all the macronutrients, fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Now, I am a particular fan of each person, as you start fasting, focus on one thing at a time. Fast, clean, have an eating window. Eat normally. Then this appetite correction is going to kick in. The other thing that'll happen is you will start noticing what foods make you feel well when you open your eating window and what foods sustain you. Okay. So, one clue that what you opened your eating window with isn't supportive is that you're ravenously hungry an hour later. Okay. So, whatever you eat to open your eating window should feel very delicious and satiating, satisfying when you're eating it. And it should sustain you until the next meal, at least 3 or 4 hours, if not 5. So you want to eat well, you want to fill up, you want to have a variety. You want to look at that plate or bowl and be like, oh, there's a good variety of things here. Now, fiber, protein, and fat. So you said avocado, right? Or tuna or olives or a variety, eggs, you said. So eggs, I think, are nature's perfect balance of fat and protein. But each individual needs to experiment and discover for themselves what feels nourishing, what tastes delicious, what feels satisfying, and then sustains them. And that's practice over time. But being an intermittent faster helps clarify that. And people will oftentimes start out with opening their eating window like with oatmeal with fruit in it or a savory oatmeal, or then they realize, gosh, so for some people that oatmeal really does sustain them for 3 4 hours. For some people they are ravenously hungry an hour later because they had a blood sugar reaction to that oatmeal, and those people are better having some tuna and bell peppers and play around with it. The choices are vast, but ultimately what we're aiming for food wise is to not engage in the food wars, but to actually discover what real whole foods does my body love. And ultra processed food, crackers, cereal, fruity yogurts, even people think protein bars and protein shakes are healthful. Well, they're ultra processed food also. So where I'm aiming with my clients down the road is to listen to our bodies well enough that we are choosing real, whole, actual food, greens and grains and beans and meat and fish and cottage cheese and, whatever, of those things that I just said. Some people like those things. Some people don't. Some people are on the carnivore side and other people are on the plant-based vegan side. And what we all want to be aiming for is eating actual food. And a lot of people don't know what that even means these days because we think actual food comes in a cereal box, and it doesn't.
Yeah. After a person has lost the weight, intermittent fasting it helps you maintain the weight loss. You don't continue to just lose weight, I assume.
That's right. That's such a great question. So I will never forget the moment. I was about 4 months in. I was feeling so well. I was having lunch earlier than I normally did. A friend said, let's go to lunch. I'm like, oh, I'll change my eating window today and have lunch with this friend, right? And she said, well, what are you going to do when you lose all the weight? And I thought, my gosh, well, if this were a diet, I would stop. But I looked at her, I said, I feel so well. I cannot imagine. I'll keep doing this. I will have an eating window. Now I might change it. Who knows? Now, what actually happened was 15 months it wasn't even the number on the scale. It was that I could get out my box of my favorite clothes that I hadn't fit in so many years. And I tried everything on and everything fit. So I was like, I have arrived, right? And I just continued the eating window that I love, that made me feel well, that worked with my life, I just kept doing that. I think I'm a really rare person, a woman in menopause who set out to lose a considerable amount of weight, lost it, and then have kept it off. I think there aren't many of us. And the people who do, I think, are intermittent fasters. And so you're right, Jill, that you don't just keep getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, right? Like every day, my body is in a fasted state. I'm burning my own body fat for energy. And then I eat the foods I love to abundance in the eating window that I love. I'm stable there. The body reaches a set weight point. Now, some people during their weight loss, their body hits a set weight point and they aren't yet where they want to go, right? So then
plateaus, the dreaded plateaus, right?
Now you got to make sure that it actually is a plateau, right? That the scale has not budged for at least a month. And then we, apply some different strategies, different fasting strategies, different food, different movement,
So you recommend that you fast every day. It's not like something you only do 5 days a week or.
Here's why. That first month that I shared, that is the adjustment phase where the body is in repair, learning this new habit. What it's doing is it's chipping away at the stored sugar called glycogen that's mostly in our liver, but tucked different places. It's kind of like a bathtub being drained. Down, 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 down. Then at the point that the glycogen stores have been depleted, the body's like, I've got to shift over into utilizing this body fat for energy, where we're like, yay. Well, that takes some effort for the body to make that shift. Once we're there, you do not ever want to go back. So people are like, oh, I was an intermittent faster. I felt so good, but I stopped. I went on vacation or had a stressful time in my life. And then they got to get back to it. They've got to go through the whole adjustment phase again. Okay.
So it takes a month again.
Yes.
And then the 2 months. So you start right back where you were, right?
It's just like running. You can't expect to, you've trained and you run a 10K or something, you stop running. You can't go out and run 6 miles tomorrow. You got to work back up to it. Okay. So the fasting is the same. Now, here's the other reason, Jill, that I say do it every day is that one of the attributes of diet culture and diet mindset is stopping and starting and stopping and starting. There's something to be said for relating to it like sleep, like every day I do it. And I just get to adjust it, but I do it every day. Okay. It's just as natural as sleep. I sleep, I have an eating window. Okay. So then if you were to, I think you gave the example of could I do it 5 days a week and not 2?
Yeah.
Whatever the not 2 days would be, you'd still be probably, let's say you worked up to 18-6 and every day you fasted 18 hours, you had a 6-hour eating window from like 2 to 8 or 11 to 5, whatever you get to say. And then 1 or 2 days a week, you really want to have 3 meals. Well, maybe on those days you have a 8-hour or 10-hour eating window. You're still having an eating window. You're still conscious of,
okay.
I'm waking up, I'm drinking plain water, I'm having a black coffee. I'm going to open my eating window later. Maybe not as long as I normally do because this is a special day, but every day having an eating window, like every day I sleep, it's kind of not optional.
So you could have varying length of window if something was to come up, like, I don't know, you were doing something special over the weekend. You could say, instead of doing an 8-hour window, today I'm doing a 10.
That's right. You're like, you look ahead and people travel or they have conferences or they've got their cousin's getting married, like whatever,
life activities, right?
So rather than saying, I'm not doing it, you're always doing it. This honors our physiology. It's not a diet. It's not a thing we're doing. It's actually paying close attention and caring about. The best way to describe it is it matches our physiology and we feel so well. Oftentimes when people adjust their eating window for travel or special occasion, mostly they're really excited to get back to their favorite eating window because they're like, well, that was fun, but man, those were some long eating windows that I was feeling a little sluggish. I liked my fasting hours and my normal eating window because I've discovered what actually feels so good to me. So people want to get back to that.
Yeah, I was thinking of conferences and things like that. You end up going to dinner much later and, maybe having dinner at 9 o'clock at night. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is like my bedtime, not my eating time.
That's right.
And
I
it does
know.
wreak havoc with your food.
Being an intermittent faster really has people naturally prioritizing feeling well. Because when you actually feel really well and you have great energy all day long, mostly people are just dragging through life, right? And when you have an abundance of energy and feel so well, it's a lot easier to say, you know what, I'm going to skip that meal with you guys, or, because it's just easier to say, oh, I don't feel so great when I eat when I'm working, or I don't feel so well when I eat super late. I'm cutting this, can we have an earlier dinner? Because I don't like eating dinner that late. You start having a freedom and a confidence to kind of stand up for yourself because it's just a top priority to feel great.
What about protein? I know we're always talking about women need, as they're getting older, need more protein and keep our muscles healthy. How do we get enough protein in this window?
Well, protein is having a moment.
It is. It's very popular right now.
We've all lived long enough to know and look back in our lives that every macronutrient has had a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So fat, protein, carbohydrates, but which includes, fibrous foods, are all very important for our health. Now, there are some real advocates for carnivore that's like, nobody needs a carbohydrate. We actually do. Okay. And when the body has too much protein, guess what happens to it? The liver has to work extra hard and turn the excess protein into sugar, which then gets stored as fat. Okay. So we want to discover for ourselves, each individual, what balance of nutrients feels really well. Now, you could do a program called Zoe, which then you have blood tests and so forth in your body. They help you figure out what percentages of protein, fiber, and fat your unique body, like how do you metabolize fat and how are you metabolizing protein and fiber and what proportions you need. But mostly when you're an intermittent faster, your own body is informing you of the balance of fiber and fat and protein it needs and wants. People will say, I am craving. I'll get on my client calls and they're like, I'm craving, fill in the blanks. Like I said, Brussels sprouts earlier. It could be chicken, chicken, chicken. It's like, okay, you should listen to that. Now, the other thing about protein is people are shoving in excess protein to get their whatever recommended grams that their personal trainer told them that they need. Do not be shoving in extra food. Remember that when you're an intermittent faster, your body is fueling on your own body fat during the fasting hours. And that's nutrients. And your body is happily fueling on your own body fat. And then it's shifting to the eating window. And it is telling you the proportion of fiber and fat and protein it needs and wants. Remember, I spoke about autophagy a few minutes ago. That is this deep cellular repair where the body digs into old cells and pulls out the parts and spruces them back up and upcycles old, junky protein. So we have on our own bodies, we're recycling old, junky protein when we're in a fasted state. So that's another way that we are getting more protein. People do not, unless you're eating all ultra processed food, if you're shifting to eating real whole food and fasting clean and having an eating window and moving your body and sleeping well, you're living the dream.
Okay.
I've heard some people say that you can get some of the same effects of autophagy from exercise as well as fasting. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, the autophagy does increase when you're exercising, but it is most upregulated when we're in a fasted state. So if you're exercising in a fasted state, you are cranking up the autophagy as well as human growth hormone production, which is really exciting as we age to think not only is HGH increasing while I'm exercising, but it is cranking up while I'm in a fasted state. So I'm increasing muscle and increasing bone density while I'm fasting. So, people are concerned about muscle loss and so forth. It's like, okay, go get an in-body composition scan. I recommend people find a clinic or a gym that has a model 570 because that model of an in-body composition scan tests your visceral fat as well. And it's like if you're going to pay $35 or $40 to have a body composition scan, you might as well get on one that tells you how much fat is on your organs.
You call that a model 570.
570, yeah. So if you go to the InBody website and you plug in your zip code, it can help you find the machine that's either a 570 or a 770. And then you're getting your money's worth because we really want to get that fat off our organs. And so you can see that you're burning body fat and either stabilizing or building lean body mass while you're an intermittent faster. That's very exciting to see. It's really exciting to see that visceral fat come down because that's a deadly fat.
That's very good for health, right?
You mentioned bone density, and so I'm wondering, are there any? Well, first of all, are there any negative health consequences for people from intermittent fasting? And is there anyone who should not be doing this? I'm thinking about people who have osteoporosis or osteopenia or some other health issue.
People with bone issues actually benefit from intermittent fasting because of the human growth hormone. Now, if you add weight resistance training to your daily regimen, that is incredibly important. So not only are we losing muscle mass at a fast rate at our age, but it's the bone density is also at risk. And so being an intermittent faster and cranking up the human growth hormone, and then you add to that nutritious food and sleep and weight resistance training, that all contributes to the health of our bones as well. And so you said, who should not be doing this? Over fasting, meaning pushing hard and calorie restriction, not eating well, not eating enough is detrimental to everyone. Okay. But when a person has a healthful fasting schedule, a young woman can absolutely turn around PCOS and fertility issues. Many OBGYNs encourage their female patients to have an eating window and to have a fasting schedule. But if you're aiming to get pregnant, use fasting. But as soon as you are pregnant, stop fasting. Okay. So eat, however many meals a day fuels your body well while you're growing a baby. And then while you're breastfeeding, it's not a time to be fasting. This is also, not appropriate to put a child or even a teenager, on a fasting schedule. Okay. What we can do for our young people and teenagers is teach people to eat when they're hungry and to distinguish between, just a stomach growling or eating for boredom or entertainment or to soothe our emotions, to actually eat meals when we're hungry. So not appropriate for pregnant women, breastfeeding, or young people.
Pretty good for women over 50, who is the majority of our audience.
A person who is currently dealing with an eating disorder would want to get psychological help in that area and not be restricting their eating.
So I could see where some people could become overly zealous in restricting the time that they're eating.
Yeah.
And you already said if you're having a healthy window, I mean, if you have that eating disorder, you may say, oh, well, 4 hours is good. So 0 is better.
So that's right. Now, we can hear the difference, right? So I like to distinguish between what I call this punishment paradigm of diet culture and perfectionism and trying so hard to be good and control everything. There's a big difference between pushing hard and struggling and force and control and perfectionism and tuning into our inner compass and being guided, have a reverence for this body and being guided by how it's informing us, and eating nourishing food and feeling really well and eating to satiety and not entertaining ourselves or soothing ourselves with food, but actually nourishing ourselves well and enjoying our food. Those are two different worlds. And as I'm coaching people, I am helping people identify and escape from this punishment paradigm and move into this quiet reverence, this gentle, the way we relate to our bodies up until now is to contort and control and to push and be good and to struggle. This is not that. This is not that at all. And so then to be able to apply this gentle fasting and eating window rhythm that has integrity with the way our bodies work, and to feel so much better with high energy, and then go in for our lab work and, have all my biomarkers are optimal. So I'm so grateful that I can demonstrate that an aging woman, can restore their health and maintain good health and keep feeling better and better and better as we age, as opposed to it's all downhill from here, which isn't true.
Yeah.
Well, I know you offer personalized coaching. And why should people consider using a coach for intermittent fasting? How does that work?
Well, here's the thing. You don't need me if you simply apply the how-to, right? It's like, okay, she said the clean fast, plain water, plain black coffee, plain black or green tea, some magnesium, maybe a little sodium, and your medications. And then I figure out my own eating window. It's got to feel good. It's got to work with my life. And it's got to help me reach my goals. Everybody can do that, truly. But people have tons of questions. People read a bunch of stuff. They hear a bunch of, people get confused. People get demoralized. People say it's not working when it really is. So the cornerstones of my coaching there are 4 cornerstones. Number 1 is the clean fast. Number 2 is the mindset of curiosity. Everything's a discovery. The punishment diet world would have us think we are failing all the time. I'm so confused. I don't know what to do, right? No, you can't screw this up. If we lean in with a spirit of curiosity, that then leads to the 3rd cornerstone, which is customization. There's not one cookie cutter approach for everybody. Okay, everybody, clean fast, figure out your favorite eating window, and then lean in with curiosity to discover the solutions, the timing, everything that's unique for you. And then the 4th cornerstone is continuing. And it's the continuing that is what you want me for. Right? That people think, oh my gosh, I'm going on a cruise and then I've got this work conference and then I'm going here and I'm going there, or I work from home and that refrigerator is right there. Yeah. And so whatever it is that people are dealing with and struggling with, I am here to be alongside you to have you reach your goals. And that's exhilarating, because I never know when I get on the phone with someone or get in a group class on Zoom, how's everybody doing? And then I listen for how people are, where is the struggle, stress, or strain? I make it better.
So you do both group sessions and individual coaching?
Yeah, I started out in 2018 with my first holiday program. That was my first class that I created. And we go from Halloween treats through New Year's bubbly and beyond, having an eating window, not dieting, enjoying festive food and drink, and not ever relying on January to fix everything ever again, right? That we can arrive in January feeling energized and healthful. And so, yeah, I've got my foundation group programs and my membership where we meet, and I have what I call our fast chats. And then I coach people one-on-one. Some people either for their schedule or they're just want the more personalized approach, want to have a one-on-one coaching agreement. But I work with people for a year.
Oh, okay. And remind us of your company name.
It's Fast Forward Wellness. So fastforwardwellness.com or on Instagram. And I don't spend much time on social media, so there's a bit of a presence there for me, but I spend my time with helping people, yeah, as opposed to being on social media.
Well, we'll make sure that we have a link to your website in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been great talking with you today, Laurie. Really appreciate you so much sharing so much information with our listeners.
I'm excited. I love hearing from people. I love it when everybody out there is just going to start today and see how they feel. Get through that first adjustment phase month, stay off that scale, and discover for yourself what has you feel amazing.
And it sounds like you really need to do this for over a month to really start to notice the benefits.
Yes. And to have that first month be gentle and have it work with your life.
Okay. Don't do it for a week and then say ick.
Oh no. If you do it for a week and said ick, yeah, you just want to be steady.
Okay.
And it would be like
Yeah.
saying, oh, I tried sleeping for a week and said ick. It's like, no, you keep doing that. You keep doing it.
Well, and so much people will jump in with both feet and try to do 19.5 from the get-go, and that's not what you recommend, right?
No, be gentle.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's really been very inspirational.
Oh, thank you, Chris and Jill.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
You know, whenever I have tried to explain intermittent fasting to someone, I sort of ramble on and then they end up with a lot more questions. Like Laurie did such a good job of explaining how to fast and why you might want to do it. I really admired her explanation.
Yeah, she definitely knows what she's talking about. I liked when she talked about the body is in repair, much like when you're sleeping. It helps you to understand how this whole thing works. And there are so many different ways to do intermittent fasting. I liked how she talked about a step, start 12-12 and then increase to other levels after time. And don't consider anything until your second month.
Yeah, I really like that. Plus, listening to your body and eating what your body wants and not worrying about changing your diet when you first start. Just eat what you normally eat.
Right. Well, that's so true about any kind of new habit. Trying to change everything at once is just way too much.
Yeah. And then you know what? You also then don't know what's causing what. If you change your diet and you quit eating during certain times, what's causing the effect? It's
Exactly.
yeah. So I really
Yeah.
did like that. And I liked the progression she recommended. I thought that was very helpful.
Yeah. Also, very encouraging about feeling amazing because I think we all want to feel amazing.
Yes, she clearly thrived with intermittent fasting and lost the belly weight or belly fat and the extra weight she'd put on and clearly felt great.
So much so that she's still doing it after all these years and finding that's a lifestyle that she wants to continue to embrace.
Yes, definitely. So I know when I tried intermittent fasting, I felt actually pretty good about it, but I quit doing it because I kept reading how we shouldn't be doing it.
There's definitely controversy around it. I've seen and heard different folks feel different ways about it. And it's really something I think that each person has to research on their own and make their own decisions about.
And if you want to try it, try it. I think that's the other thing is, this is not like an irreversible thing. It's like not like you're going and having surgery or something. You can always stop.
Right. It's something that, her thoughts on doing at least 4 weeks before you make any decisions. And you don't really feel a big difference, I guess, until the second month.
Well, and I've heard that even with other kinds of changes in if you're doing, I don't know, like making health changes, is you can't judge how efficient something is or how well it's working after just a few days. You usually need to give it a few weeks to do its thing.
Yeah, well, like strength training, you can't do 2 sessions and call it like, this didn't work for me.
Yeah. I'm not getting any muscles. One thing I did notice, and she did mention about electrolytes, but I have known people who sort of did not pay any attention to that while they were fasting and ended up with some problems. So you do need to pay attention to making sure you have enough sodium and potassium and whatever else you need.
Exactly. There's a little more to it that, I think helps when you're doing your research to figure out what the pros and cons are of different things. I was real interested in what she talked about, the in-body composition, your body composition, the model 570. I was not aware of that. Maybe you've done that one, Jill. Have you ever tried
Well, I
a
don't
body
know.
composition like that?
Well, many years ago, I did some sort of machine at the Cleveland Clinic that was like a really amazing machine. You stood on it and held it, and it did this whole analysis of your body composition. Because I remember the doctor at that point, this was a good long time ago. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but your upper body strength is off the chart for a woman your age. I was like, cool.
Strength training, right?
I don't think I would necessarily fall there now, but I don't know. But
I think you probably would. But it'd be interesting to check it out. I like measurement things to really see how you're doing.
Jim has something called eVolt now, where it does sample of your body analysis. And I have done that, but I haven't done it recently. So I can't remember the amount of detail it gives you.
Yeah. Well, I do think body composition is a good measure of things, much more than just your regular scale, because, water weight or what have you. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, like my scale, I have a fancy scale that tells you your fat percentage and your muscle percentage and your water percentage. And I don't know how accurate it is, but it is at least consistent. So I can see if I'm getting out of whack or whatever.
So it measures the changes for sure, whether it's the exact numbers.
I wouldn't want to say this is the accurate measure of my body fat, and sometimes I actually feel like I hope it's not accurate. But it at least gives me the ability to sort of track what's going on because you're right. I like data. I like to know things. So, and that's a good reminder that I should go do the eVolt thing at my gym again.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, if you wrote it down, what the differences are.
Yeah, it has an app, so it tracks that for you. But yeah,
cool.
Yeah, but no, I had not heard of whatever of the machine or whatever she was talking about.
I'm going to look that up and
she did say
I'll put links in the show notes too.
Yeah, there was a website where you could go and put in your zip code and it would tell you the closest place.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool. I'm curious about the whole bone density thing. I'd sort of like to research that a bit because I've heard that women after a certain age shouldn't even try to lose weight because of their bone density, but that's also seems like damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Right. Well, there's advantages to losing weight, and then there's also extreme advantages to having good bone density. So perhaps that's something that you get measured before you start and take a look at all the research about it,
Yeah, right.
And it matters what medications you're on as well. So,
good point. We're back to everyone needs to do their own research and make the decision as to what works best for them.
Exactly.
Well, if you're listening, let Chris and me know if you have some thoughts on our talk with Laurie today. And if you have tried intermittent fasting, we'd love to know your thoughts about it. If you want to contact us, please share.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a message at becomingellie.com, and you can also find us as Becoming Ellie on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Please consider joining our private Becoming Ellie Facebook group.
Yes, it was great talking with you today, Jill. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.